So today I am indeed excited to be joined by Paul Robinson, VP of National Sales at IGI Cybersecurity. Paul, welcome to the CyberJA show.
Hey, Rich. Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure and honor to be on with you today.
Yes, awesome. And it's also a very wonderful opportunity when, persons within the industry are able to connect at various points in their life, across the globe, to share with each other in these forums, in being able to add value to persons who are definitely seeking to uh, pivot into the industry as well as want to take their career to the next level as it relates to cybersecurity. And for sure, no doubt, you definitely have a wealth of experiences. Merging the experience of business, sales, cybersecurity. That's indeed a good mix that definitely, no doubt, you would have gained somewhat a good amount of experience working in various roles along the way. So before we actually get into the details of how it is that you navigated your way through the various roles, tell us about yourself and how it is that you got into the industry, what motivated you, how it is that you pivoted your career along these various, job roles, opportunities, the struggles of your life, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to start this conversation. Thank you so much for allowing me to kind of paint the picture. I apologize, there's a dog in the background, but so I did not come from business or tech. I did not grow up in the business and technical industry. My dad was a person who had a mission in Brooklyn, New York, and helped those who were struggling with drugs, alcoholism, abuse. It was a pretty intense childhood that I had to grow up around people that had all these internal struggles. And I got into telecom a little bit after college, but an organization that I worked with that was in telecom decided to go into cybersecurity, and I liked telecom. It paid the bills and it provided for my family, but really became extremely passionate about cybersecurity because of the background that I had. Because at its fundamental core, when you're in cybersecurity, you're supposed to be helping somebody. You have to have a sense of empathy and a sense of care, kindness to help people. I think it gets lost a lot in our industry sometimes when we get tied into bits and bytes and zeros and ones and tech and things like that. But really, what it comes down to is protecting individuals, protecting businesses from a disaster. I in my time of being in cybersecurity, I've seen businesses shut down. I've seen what a ransomware attack looks like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've seen what it's like for people not to get paid because payroll has been disrupted by a cyber attack. And there has to be some level of care and concern and human decency when dealing with situations like that. It's not a binary thought that you have to work through it. You have to be able to see people for who they are. So that's why I really love the industry, because it allows me to use something that I take very seriously, which is helping people and providing value to the folks that are around me.
Uh, that's a very interesting point you have made there. Um, Not many persons I do um, here talking from this perspective, in that understanding the why behind cybersecurity. And so many times, especially those who are young or new to the industry, they have the concept of the bits and bytes, the technicalities, but not truly understand the mission behind why it is that you want to get into cybersecurity. Why is it that you want to be information technology? And you have mentioned a very important point, that at the end of the day is about helping individuals within the organization to operate securely in light of all the various threats that are taking place within the environment. So that's a very good note in terms of thinking about the why behind what it is that you want to do, or the reason why it is that you want to navigate into cybersecurity. So with that said, can you share a little bit more in terms of, based on observation of, I mean, the details on your profile, can you talk a little bit more about some of those job roles and how it is that you actually moved along those paths? I mean, some of the technical skills, how it is that you actually uh, reached to those levels of your career path?
Yeah, great question. So, in the beginning of my career, I'd say the first 8 years, it was focusing on technology. I had the chance to work for an organization that partnered with the likes of Palo Alto Networks and Proofpoint and CyberArk in their early days. And it was an amazing education to get to see, how these companies grew. So I remember Palo Alto Networks, and I'm not, promoting them or whatever, but they're a great example of this. I remember when you go into a meeting and people would say, "I've never heard of Palo Alto Networks," and we buy these other firewalls, and Palo Alto never work. And now, look at them now. They're one of the leaders in the industry, for their space, and the proof points and the CyberArks alike, kind of the same way. So really early on in my career, I got to see how these companies grew, and how companies were going through the paradigm shift of how these leading edge technologies would be of value to their organizations. The second part of my career has been spent a lot in GRC, and risk management, which has been a kind of a nice bow around my career, and that kind of gave me the why we're doing this kind of thing. A gentleman that I work with, his name is Kevin Hutchinson, said it best. He said the tools that we buy are meant to automate the cybersecurity programs that we have implemented, and it's such a powerful statement because if I went to you and I gave you building materials and a blank, piece of land and said, "Hey, go build a house," how are you going to do that without a blueprint? How are you going to do that without a survey of the land to make sure that you're building it on a solid foundation, and not, where there's a swamp underneath it, or something else that would cause the structure to not be able to stand? That's how I view, cyber risk management programs. That's your blueprint. You can't just say, "Well, I saw this on the news, so I'm going to go out and buy this technology, or I'm going to do this service because it impacted someone, in healthcare." Well, if you're not in healthcare and you're in manufacturing, it's really kind of apples and oranges when you're comparing the two. So it's so vitally important to make sure that you understand your organization and the risk specific to the organization, and not, look at it from a lens of anything else other than that. And that's what I've spent the last, several years of my career doing, is helping organizations to be able to build out those cybersecurity programs. And then once the programs are built, then you bring the technology in to make sure that it's automated. Automation's becoming big these days in our space. And back in the day, early on in my career, people kind of were like, automation, I don't know about that. But now it's vital, because our adversaries, the criminals, are automated. So if they're doing automated, activities to cause damage, then we have to counter that with automation to make sure that we are, we're defending our territories the best way possible.
So yes, very important points there. So based on what you're saying so far, is that as cybersecurity professionals, or if it is that you want to build your career in the cybersecurity space, then it is always good to have a holistic view of
Yeah.
cybersecurity, understanding not just about the bits and bytes or the tools. That is very important, because I will never say that cybersecurity is just about seeing things from an eye level, but it's also having an in-depth understanding of the fundamentals, the bits and the bytes. That's also very good to gain that strong understanding, so that you're able to, I mean, pivot or to take your career at various levels along the path. And no doubt that would have also, as you have mentioned, in that you would gain a fundamental understanding of computers, networks, connections, and that definitely allowed you to appreciate and to navigate your way along the path to where you are now.
Yeah, it's communicating the why. I think it's really, you touched on that earlier. It's communicating the why. So if you're a technology, security technology professional, that is very important to have those skills, but you also have to be able to translate that information to say, okay, this is why we need to implement this tool, or this is why we need to do this service and this program, to be able to help along the way.
Exactly. One of the things that actually jumped out at me though, when I was actually looking at your profile, and I found it very interesting. And so for some reason, I think I just want to maybe share a little bit about it and then ask you to elaborate more on this for us in terms of your about section of your profile. I found it very interesting, amusing. And it says that, so if you follow me and you haven't asked yourself, is this guy crazy? I would be shocked. One second I am posting about data security, and the next second about being a parent in this crazy business world as we live in. What I have found about in my career is that it is truly connected no matter how much we like to talk about work-life balance. My job is pretty simple these days, helping companies understand and try to solve a very complex problem with unstructured data and being a husband, father, and friend to those around me. I believe with God's help, I can accomplish these things not without failures and disappointments along the way. My goal on being a LinkedIn member is to engage, encourage, respectfully challenge, and most important, listen to my network. This is very interesting. Can you break this apart for us? And
Yes. I love it. Yeah, you know what? It's all connected. It's all connected, man. And it really comes down to, you know, we talk about work-life balance a lot. And it's important, but I think sometimes in the conversations with work-life balance, we tend to bleed towards another. I could be a tremendous father and a tremendous husband and a tremendous friend, but not be good at what it is that I'm getting paid to do. Or I could immerse myself into work and be the best cybersecurity professional that I could be and get accolades, but then I've neglected my family. I've been a terrible father, terrible husband, terrible friend to those that are around me. And really, what I've learned recently is that it kind of just it all comes together. It all it all has to work together at some points. And like I said in that post, I fail at it daily. I do, and it's a struggle. But I think it's identifying when you do fail at that, and then when you're able to kind of make the corrections and adjustments to make sure that you're being the best to both people. And I have 4 children, and I work from home pretty much all the time. And so they hear me on these conversations that I have. They hear me in these meetings that I have. They hear me in the interactions that I have with my colleagues. And I have to set the right example for them. I have to set the right example for them, and I have to, show them, how hard work is how you make it, in this world. Nothing's given to me. Like I said, I didn't come into the industry with a crazy great network or contacts that my dad could just point me to and get me jobs or get me opportunities, things like that. Like they had to work for it, and I think that gets lost a lot these days. With people of like, well, I just expect things to just happen. They just don't. You have to put in the sweat equity. You have to work hard to be able to make it. But yeah, it all comes together. It all fundamentally comes down to how can I be the best Paul Robinson or Rich A. Perry that I could be to those around me when I interact with them.
that's so very vital in terms of building our career as professionals within the industry. And that's also a very good note in that as individuals, when we try to excel in our career journey, it's not just about the thinking about the salary that we can actually earn from this, but thinking about people, thinking about the why we do what we do, and also to have that holistic lifestyle, that balance in terms of building relationships. And you also mentioned something very important in that as we go along in our career, is not just about a very important thing in terms of actually taking your career to the next part is networking, building relationships. So can you share, some more insights on that in terms of its value to
Yeah.
building your career development?
Yeah, building relationships in your network is the most important currency in anybody's career. I believe that firmly. It's worth more to me than money, to have a reputable name out there, a name that people make synonymous with, knowing the industry, being helpful, being kind, things of that nature. But you bring up a very interesting point of the word building relationships. And really, wherever you are in your career and whatever you're doing, when you build these relationships, there has to be a level of authenticity that's involved in it, and not just hey, I'm going to build a relationship with Richie because I know that Richie can buy my product or my solution. It's building a relationship with Richie because we share similar values and similar thoughts, and we want to work together. Some of the most powerful network connections that I have, and people that I know, it wasn't built on a transactional engagement or agreement. It was meeting them at a trade show or interacting with them on LinkedIn, or a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it. But it has to be authentic. It can't be, well, I'm going to give my time and my efforts and my energy to get something. If you're a true cybersecurity professional and truly looking to help the industry, then you're making connections that might not line your pockets immediately. Listen, we work in business, we work in commerce, we got it, we have to make money to provide for our families. I get it. But there's such a bigger picture that we have, in the world, to help people out. And people remember that. People remember when you leave an impact on their lives, that benefit them. And really going into meetings or going into an organization that you're in, if you can funnel it and filter it through the perspective of, hey, what can I get out of it, out of this engagement, or what can I get out of this job, and flip that and say, okay, what can I give here, what can I provide here, it really is transcending into how your work changes, because then you really feel good at the end of the day after you do something. You don't want to feel, I don't know if I should have done that, or I told the line a little bit too much, or things like that. You want to be able to provide that value. Any meeting that I have, any discussion that I have, I always end it with, I hope I've provided you some value today, because that's what people want. People want value. People want something that they can tangibly take away to make their company or themselves better. And going into it with that mindset is really vital and important.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a very good point. I mean, and you touched something that I really, one of the things that, as it relates to relationships, so often I am flooded with so many contacts on LinkedIn. I mean, persons do not want, so are not interested in building genuine relationships. And it's very good to have to be your true self, to create strong relationships to build your career path. I mean, I'm bombarded with so many messages, sales pitches. I mean, persons are not interested in trying to know who you are as an individual, your lifestyle.
Mhm.
It's all about what it is that they can gain financially, and that's it. So building your career is something that you have to have a lot of patience and be genuine in terms of who you are as an individual and how it is that you can also add value to other
Mhm.
persons in the industry. Now,
Yeah, yeah. I
the,
was going to say so. I was going to say
oh,
some of the some of the circles that I run in today, people are like, well, how'd you get to know them? And I'm like, I've known them for years. I've known them for years. It's not oh, you know, they can elevate my career and jump my career right away. These people have helped elevate me and along the way, and have guided me along the way through years of relationship building, and through years of being connected, and through years of just being there for each other. And that's the most important thing, in especially in cybersecurity. It's such a small community, and it's something that I take very seriously. I actually, worry about it. It's like one misstep in your cybersecurity career, you do wrong by someone, or you cheat someone, or you cheat the organization that you're working with, and you don't do right. That could destroy your whole career instantly. And it's so important for people that are in their careers, maybe starting, or even midway through, to really take that into account. To, okay, I can make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. Every day I make mistakes. But, you know, when you roll into moral and ethics, and you're not taking that seriously, you will not make it in cybersecurity and risk. You just won't make it.
Sure. And that definitely would be a very good note to end our conversation on. But there's just one last question before actually discussion is you actually made a post. I can't remember exactly the post. However, you stated that you were going through a challenging period. I think you lost your job, something to that effect, and you made a post. Um, can you share, I mean, a few pointers in terms of um, for those who have actually found themselves in similar situation within the cybersecurity industry, and they're trying to gain their foothold back into the industry?
Mhm.
Is there any form of hope to strengthen them to continue to pursue their dreams?
Yeah, current state, like I said, it's a very difficult time period right now in our industry, with the layoffs that are taking place, with people that are losing their jobs. And I've been laid off twice. The first time that I was laid off, I was working from home, and I had my 7-month-old daughter at home with me, because I was watching her while I was working, and I was called into the office to clean out my desk and to leave. So imagine getting in a car with your 7-month-old daughter, not having any work, and then found out the next day that my wife was pregnant with our second child. So my head was spinning. My head was absolutely spinning. And I think people mean well when they put platitudes on LinkedIn and are like, you'll make it, and everything's going to be okay. But in the moment, you don't feel like that. And I remember not feeling like that, like everything's going to be okay. My world was crumbling, and somebody saying, "Oh, everything's going to be okay," was not helpful. So there are two aspects to this. For those that are without jobs, and looking to get in, authentically engage in networking with people, and be truthful, and just say, hey, I lost my job. I'm scared. I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage. I don't know how I'm going to feed my family. Is there any advice, any connections that you can make for me? Um, Feel free to ask that, because you're going to find out that, as crazy as our world is today, people genuinely want to help. They genuinely want to help. And especially in cybersecurity, it's a very, like I said, a very close knit community of where people want to help out. And so it's embarrassing, and it's humbling, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there to say, hey, I need help. And engage people from that perspective. On the flip side of that, if you're fortunate enough to have a job right now, and you're blessed with income and a stable place to work, for yourself, when you come across people that are struggling, to find job and to find employment, don't don't go to the platitudes. Don't go to the think of conscious ways that you can help them. Or don't engage at all. If you're like, hey, I'm so, it could be something that's, hey, I'm so sorry that you're struggling. I will look out for opportunities for you. But if you have the connections, if you have the contacts to help them out, be very, vet them out. You got to be careful, who you're connecting your network to. You don't want to poison your network with someone that isn't, a viable person to do that with. But if you can vet them out, offer that help. That's the best thing you can do for people that are struggling, is just say, hey, I can make a call right now to somebody to see what I can do, or I can send an email, or I can connect you on LinkedIn. Help is an action verb. It's not it's not a noun. It's not a noun. It's an action verb. So put help into action and help your fellow people out the best way that you can.
Paul, this was an awesome conversation. I
It
mean,
was.
that we could go into, we could go on and on, but as they always say, all good things must come to an end until we have, I mean, no doubts. We'll definitely be in touch so that we can actually have more interesting conversations like this. So, with that said, guys, it was a pleasure having this conversation with you, Paul, and we look forward to future conversations. And so, stay connected to the CyberJA podcast for all future recordings.
Thank you, Richie. Have a great day.
Have a great day too. It was a pleasure.
Okay.